Good afternoon. Call to order this Finance Committee meeting for Monday, May 11th, 2026. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rawls. Commissioner Darrett. Here. Commissioner Oster. Commissioner Jackson. Here. Commissioner Russell.
Here.
Commissioner Hill. Here. Commissioner Lee. Here. Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Jay.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
7 members present.
There are any amendments to today's agenda? Seeing none.
Motion to approve.
Second? Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes. Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to address Commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 6, summary report from Knox County Schools with the Finance Director for Knox County School System, Mr. Ron McPherson. You have a document on the digital agenda to review. If you please state your name, hit the button first. State your name and department for the record.
Ron McPherson, Knox County Schools. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. As part of the third quarter update, we'll briefly talk about some of the key indicators. These are the ones you're used to seeing. These are the ones we monitor throughout the year to evaluate the district's overall fiscal stability. At this point in the year, our financial condition continues to remain stable. Fund balance levels are, I would classify them as healthy. I will say that that has allowed us over the last couple of years to address some needs that otherwise would have incurred, we would have had to issue additional debt. So this has allowed us to avoid more debt coming into our budget. So I would characterize it as it's more or less eased the burden somewhat that otherwise would be on the general purpose budget. By no means does the debt issue the debt burden go away, but we're trying to mitigate that as much as possible. From an operating standpoint, revenues and expenditures both trending in line with where we were this time last year. There's no unusual variances that we're seeing. There's no emerging concerns, if you will, that that we've noticed. That said, there are several areas that we continue to monitor closely, and I probably sound like a broken record at times when I go over these, but ongoing challenges between instructional priorities versus debt, we're probably no different than most other districts around the country. But so I guess in our terms, it would be general purpose budget versus capital plan. And so we have to be really methodical, I would say, especially during budget development, when we're weighing those needs and essentially competing for the same dollars. Another concern, a couple of concerns actually around state funding. TISA, it seems the longer we're growing into that model, the more difficult it's becoming to predict what those dollars will be from year to year. We received the first estimate from the state typically around February, which really gives a good running start to the following year budget. And so we receive those each month, February, March, and April, and so on. One of the dilemmas we have is the final version does not get sent to us, or any district for that matter, until June, which is after the budget has already been adopted. And what has made it particularly challenging is it seems like there's more variability, more difficult to predict from month to month. We've actually talked to the state about that. I'm sure we're not the only district to do that. Also, sustainability now is becoming a concern as well. This year, or at least the latest numbers we've seen, it would represent the lowest growth from TISA that we've seen since the model has been implemented. And obviously the concern, we don't know what it's going to look like in future years. If that trend continues, it would certainly make budgets a lot more challenging in the future. So we hope that trend does not continue. Lastly, sales tax. Growth continues to be, fairly standard, fairly typical, certainly not at the level as it was several years ago. But we continue to experience stable growth. The two huge factors, TISA and sales tax, represent about 85% of our funding sources. So those are the two factors that we keep a very close eye on. So anyway, try to be brief, but I'll be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Any commissioners have any questions? Ms. Hill?
Thank you, Commissioner Jay. Ron, would you explain to us a little bit how, you throw the acronyms like TISA
sorry.
around,
Yeah.
you know, and
Sorry. Yeah.
I want to be sure that this body understands the a little bit of the complexity and how much that really affects the potential for what Knox County Schools will end up looking like.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, that's probably close to 50% of our funding. And so if it was very, based on the latest numbers, I think it was probably even less than 1%. Those aren't the official numbers, but it does become challenging if that doesn't come up in future years.
All right, and that is dependent on what?
Well, some of it is dependent on the economy, but we know the sales tax is growing at a faster rate than 1%. Another thing the state looks very closely at is enrollment, and we have had some declines in enrollment over the last couple of years. But I think other districts have too, which was a bit surprising that we thought maybe, it's all proportional, right? So if other districts are experiencing decline, we thought, well, maybe the hit won't be so hard on us. Another thing they look really closely at is physical capacity, which is an area's ability to fund schools. I'm not going to say on its own, but the ability to fund schools. And they look at it district to district and compare districts, right? So that's a factor as well. But it's, I'm going to be really honest here. It's very difficult to get into the mechanics, right, of where those dollars come from and how they're flowed through. I'm not saying the state is trying to be dismissive of that or they're trying to hide anything, but it has been, pretty challenging, I will say.
Okay. This might be, people read the papers. And of course, the big hit a few weeks ago was Knox County Schools reducing 50 positions, laying off 50. Would you actually explain that dynamic to us, please?
With respect to the 50,
And to the finances, we are not actually
see.
cutting
Yeah.
the money that equals 50 positions.
Right. So there's a couple of things at play. When enrollment decreases at the school, we have a staffing formula, right? And so when the enrollment decreases, then obviously less students. And so based on that ratio, we maintain the ratios for all the schools. But when it decreases, then certainly the positions would decrease with that. And now with some schools, it's the other way around, right? So it's an increase, right? But overall, as a district, we've experienced some decreases. So we're going to have that. We've also been pretty strategic over the last couple of years looking at district positions. We've made some pretty significant cuts there as well, and realignments to that too. So, right, sometimes it comes down to some really difficult trade-offs, but we want to keep the funding as close to the classroom as we possibly can. So that's going to be, our philosophy is that's going to be the last place, right? But if the students decrease at the school level, then the money would either be, I'm going to say resources, positions, would either be shifted into other schools or they would go away. But we don't see masses of people losing jobs or anything. Our Human Resource Department does a great job because we have retirements, right? And so they do a really good job of working with principals to get folks placed.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you for that.
Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Chair Jay. What is the current student population for Knox County Schools?
Don't have an exact number. I could get that. You're probably looking at about 58,000, maybe 57,000 to 58,000.
How does that relate to the statistic of ADM?
That ADM is average daily membership. We report that. The schools actually take that we send those reports in to the state monthly, and we monitor those. So that's a heavy, that's a big factor in determining the dollars that districts receive.
Okay. Can you give me a rough student population? Well, and so if the total student population is 57 to 58,000, how does that number compare to what actually is the ADM?
Don't know that I could actually answer that off the cuff. I could get that, right? It's very close, but like for instance, if you take, it has, I think some, I'm speaking outside of my lane here, right? But scheduling too is a factor in those reporting requirements. So sometimes we use those terms, enrollment and ADM, interchangeably. They're really not the same thing. They're very close, but I could certainly send that to the committee, a better explanation than what I'm doing here for sure.
Is that basically because you have students out, they may be sick, they may be truant or something like that, but that leads to a difference between those two figures? Is that
not necessarily. That would be a factor of attendance. And so the state also has average daily attendance with ADA.
Oh, okay.
Funding is actually based on membership, average daily membership, and not ADA, but that can be confusing as well, certainly.
Now, it's my understanding that when there is a actual enrollment, well, first of all, can you give me roughly what the 2024 enrollment was in the 2025? I'm not trying to, if you can't,
we can get that for you, for sure.
Yeah. You came here to talk about current numbers, and I'm giving you a pop quiz, right? Yeah.
We can, we can certainly provide those numbers.
Is there, Commissioner Fox, is there a finance-related question
there
in
is,
here?
yes, Chair Jay, thank you. It's my understanding that when enrollment declines, it changes the way that maintenance of effort calculation works. Is that true?
It's my understanding that maintenance of effort is based on budgeted dollars, actually, not necessarily ADM, that it's based on local funding, right, and just kind of the bottom line total, if you will. That would be like property tax, sales tax, some of the others. And so that actually is what maintenance of effort is based on. So the state looks at that at the local level in what actual total dollars are.
Okay, so there's no change to how much is spent per student on a
budget.
Okay.
Yeah, not spending. Right.
Do we have that figure? How much currently is allocated for each student, say for this current fiscal year?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but certainly we could get that. And
Mr. McPherson, I know that is different per school. It's not a flat
absolutely
rate,
different per
so
school.
It's
Yes, sir.
Back when we had a joint education committee,
Right.
we had a breakdown of what was allocated to what school and for what number. And Commissioner
Yes.
Fox, as of the 2026 numbers, Mr. McPherson would have to get you, but 2025 ended with 56,327 students.
Thank you, Chair Jay.
And I will add on, when it comes to per pupil expenditures, sometimes there's a little bit of confusion there because folks will ask, what is our per pupil funding with regards to the budget, which is a general purpose budget. When the state looks at this, they look at all funding sources. So sometimes if you see those numbers varying, that's typically what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. McPherson? Thank you for your
Thank you,
report.
sir.
Next up is item number 7, summary report from Knox County Tax Collections and Investments. Trustee Biggs, if you would please identify yourself at the podium. And
you,
you
Chairman
also have
Jay.
the
Justin
report in
Biggs.
your digital packet.
400 West Main Street. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good. Good. So favorable. We're still receiving a good rate from First Bank. That's in the packet. It's 3.52. Our money market account at Smart Bank is at 3.25. Last time we reported on interest earned for 2025, 2026 was nearly it's a little over that now. It's $5,970,987.91 for all the accounts at the First Bank Master. And Raymond James interest earned from investments when matured was $1,293,836.97. Our core portfolio right now is over 151 million with an average yield of 4.47. Our taxes collected so far for 2025 is $305,337,000, almost $338,000. We have outstanding levy of a little over $18 million. We're expecting to see that come down. Collections for 25 so far have been really good, $5,654,000, almost $565,655,000. We moved the date of the tax sale to June the 2nd. Right now, there's a little under 320 parcels in there. We're expecting that to come down as well, probably be around that 275 to 285 mark by June the 2nd. Unfavorable. Commercial property owners as well as business owners are struggling to make a profit in the current economy. We're expecting to see some things coming in a little bit negatively in that direction as the trends to watch as we continue to watch the market to make sure we get the best rates possible on any investments in Fed funds and things of that nature. I'm going to go back and talk about the tax relief and tax freeze program. We've kind of talked about that a couple times.
This is a separate document, Commissioners, on the digital agenda that was submitted.
As you guys can see, it's lengthy. I think it's like 140 pages. We tried to give you guys as much information as we possibly could. The revenue lost for that has gone down every year. And how so? So finally, that program is really being honed in to specific instances of people making under a specific dollar amount. And as you see, the loss is only $218,000 compared to $314,000 in the 23-24 year. And that is with an increase of over 500 people that we added to the program. Actually, it was around 1,000 people that we added to the program. We've seen an uptick, and I didn't realize this, but there's a whole lot of senior living facilities. A lot of people are going out and selling their homes and going and partaking in senior living facilities and things of that nature. Actually, I got a chance to visit one, and they're really nice. It's really nice there. So whenever they move, obviously, they're not able to be on the tax relief, tax freeze programs anymore. And then, unfortunately, we have seen a couple hundred people that have passed away this year. And whenever we go out to their property and their family members are there, obviously, they're not eligible for tax relief, tax freeze if they're not under the age of 65 and meet the requirements and own that property. So that 507 people that got voided, the majority of them are people going to senior living facilities and people that have passed away. So what does the future hold for tax relief? We've got the word out about it a lot. I'm sure as a lot of people have heard just in the last, 3 days, the reappraisal has come out. Our phones have been ringing pretty good today. People thankful that they got an opportunity to sign up for tax freeze, so their property taxes are frozen. I would assume that the people that missed that mark and didn't get an opportunity to apply that fall within that threshold are probably going to try to do anything they possibly can to sign up for it now. So we'll see how that comes in when people call in starting the next tax year in August and September, however that goes. Tax relief is another packet if you guys have that. Tax relief is a state program, and it's a little bit different of a beast. We've sat here and talked multiple times, if you recall, about the funding for tax relief, how hard it is to get. More people moving to the state of Tennessee means that are drawing from the same pool means you have less and less funds. I've talked to you guys about legislation and things of that nature that we've worked on with our senators and our House reps to try to get things done for the people in the Knox County and City of Knoxville community. If you look at the numbers now, we've done pretty good with our disabled veterans. I would always like to improve that. We've done really good with our elderly. And another category that we've seen have a slight uptick with a small amount is our disabled veteran widows. A lot of our widows of veterans that did not realize that they could sign up for tax disabled veterans benefits after their spouse was passed away. And we're trying to expand on that. So as you'll see, the number total for the number of claims has actually gone down. And unfortunately, that's because the threshold of $32,000 to be able to sign up on tax relief whenever you have a home dwelling and people are both drawing Social Security, a lot of times they don't fall within that lower threshold. I don't know if the state will increase that. That's a legislative matter for next session. So anybody have any questions?
Any commissioners' questions? Mr. Fox?
Thank you, Chair Jay. What is the trend? You talked about the 507 homes or parcels that came off tax relief. How does that compare to previous years? Is that a growing trend, I guess, is what I'm really asking?
Actually, if you look at the data, it was 542. It was a lot higher than that prior to my administration. It was 542 in 23-24. We had a pretty good uptick in 24-25 at 677, and then we got it all the way down to 507 in the 25-26 year. I know some people talk negatively of it, but it's actually the mobile operations program where we come to your house and say, hey, you're getting ready to fall off this. A lot of people elderly don't have home phones, and they don't have an actively working email address. So we have to physically go and talk to them face to face. And some of them didn't realize they were about to come off. They didn't submit the documentation in time. And you know, that cutoff is actually April the 5th, and then the deadline to submit was May the 5th. But it's just going door to door and physically talking to people. And then so that's how you find a lot of people are either deceased or they moved to an assisted living facility or something like that, or some of them moved out of state and they just never did anything with it. They've got the application but never turned it in at the end of the year. So.
Right. So I'm curious, do you have any, I mean, you know, one of the biggest demographics population-wise, of course, is baby boomers. And I mean, they're starting to move to senior living centers if they're not already there. And, you know, the death rate is 100% last time I checked. So I'm not trying to be morbid, but I'm just wondering if there's an expectation that as that particular demographic can reach this threshold point in their lives, if we expect that there might be more homes, more parcels coming off of the tax relief, and frankly, being opened up to purchase by, you know, younger demographics. I mean, that's where I'm really going here.
When we look at specific trends, this, like you just said, it kind of sounds more. Usually, what we see is someone's spouse passes away, and they no longer want to try to cut the grass, maintain the home, and things of that nature. A lot of times, husband and wife, they'll stay at the property. You know, and I think, you know, if you're looking at the baby boomers, you know, in the mid-60s and things like that right now, a lot of them own their land. We saw an uptick of delinquencies about 10 years ago where people actually had paid their mortgages off and they were getting a tax statement and didn't realize what they were getting. I mean, they didn't realize that their homes were paid for, and they were, you know, they were the people that had to pay their property taxes. And so that's gone now, obviously. But, you know, I don't think that it will decrease personally. I think that you may see an increase. I think due to the reappraisal, you're going to have a lot of people talking about, like, man, I wish I would have frozen my property taxes. And they just didn't, you know, and now the opportunity is still there. Mm-hmm. Finding the specific demographic of how many people we haven't captured is really hard, but fortunate enough that we were able to work with some different veterans, people out in the community. We kind of have it a little bit more honed in on how many disabled veterans are out there. I would like to be able to go in and work with the Veterans Hospital and stuff like that, but we're striking out on that one.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Biggs.
Thank you.
Move on to item number 8, summary report from Knox County Finances with our director, Mr. Chris Caldwell. You have at least one document on the digital agenda. No, you don't. I think it was emailed to you, but it's not attached to the agenda. Is that correct, Mr. Caldwell? Or do you have copies with you? Okay. If you would identify yourself for the record and trying to figure out when that was emailed. Yeah, what was that today?
He sent something out last night.
Last night, 5:20. So look for an email at 5:20 yesterday. Does anybody have any questions on that particular document? Or if not, I know we've allocated some time to review the budget, which was presented today to us. Quiet room today, Mr. Caldwell. I'll leave it up to you.
Excuse me, did you say it is on the digital?
It's not, it was not attached, but it was emailed to everybody at 5 o'clock yesterday.
All right, thank you.
From Chris yesterday. Emailed two things yesterday. Yesterday, he emailed the financial update through March and also the health matrix for the counties and municipalities.
Mr. Caldwell?
Good afternoon. So I'll start a little bit with, I did send out yesterday one thing that we get annually from the comptroller's office, which is kind of a metrics that they look at across the state related to how we perform based on certain measurements that they pay attention to. And so what I sent you all was the email that we got, which you can, the link to our page to where you can see where our metrics are, and then also just a link to the website in general, so you can look at other cities and counties, and so they have that available. And basically, they look at cash relative to general fund expenditures, and in 2025, our cash on hand was a little bit over 86 million. Annual expenditures for us is a little over 234 million. So using only cash, the county could fund 134 days of average expenditures, which is about 37%. Their target is above 16%. So we are above the target. The state average is about 52%. Then they look at debt relative to assessed value. Our general government debt's about $727 million. Our assessed value is a little over $19.7 billion. Our ratio is about at 4%. They want that to be below 8%, and the average for the state's about 3%. And then they just talk about, was your budget approved by the comptroller, and did you get a certificate? And both of those are yes. And then they get into a 10-year financial trend to where they look at revenues versus expenditures, and then also compare that to cash and fund balance on hand. So this is something that we get from the comptroller's office that we think is a helpful metric, and kind of just shows from some group that's independent what they view as important and how we rank and where we stand. And so that's always helpful to us. I did email out yesterday the monthly financial update. It is through March. Just some things of note. The general fund on the summary schedule page, which is page 4 in the document, if you have it in front of you, is about 10.2 million more than a year ago in revenue. The expenses for the general fund are about 8.5 million more than a year ago. So basically on par there to where we were. Ron spoke on schools, so I won't touch on schools. Debt service was about 3.5 million ahead of revenue from a year ago. The expense side showed it as being less by 3.7 million. There was a payment that was made, a wire that was made late, which was about 1.8 million. So that number, from a timing standpoint, would be decreased by the 1.8. And then the other thing that leads to that decrease is interest payments were a little less this year compared to last year on some of our variable rate debt. And then just in general, where we've not issued the bonds for 25 or 26, that leads to a lesser amount on the expenditure side. But the trends as a whole for us are positive. With revenue on all operating funds about almost 26 million more than last year, with expenses being up about 15.5. And just looking at sales tax in general, I won't focus on each fund, but I will say that we had budgeted about 278 million in sales tax for FY26. We are trending to get in a little over 284.8 million. And so sales tax is up over budget. And as Ron had said, it trends well. It's not as high of a trend as we have saw year over year for the past 4 or 5 years, but it is still trending up. And then property tax collections. We have collected to date more than what we had collected all of FY25. We project for FY26 that we will hit about 307.8 million in current property tax revenue. A year ago, that number was about 299.5. So we're up. We project to be up about 2.8% this year on current property tax revenue. And the if you estimate what the per penny would be on property tax at that point, it's about $1,981,160. So really good year on property tax. And when you take that into account of the ratios going away in 27, it leaves us in a really good spot. Page 14 of the document is hotel motel tax fund. Hotel motel tax fund is about, on the composite trend, about 2.3 million ahead of budget, so that would put us at about 14.3. The 21-year average trend would show us about 3 million ahead of budget, which would put us closer to 15. And that's right around where we were a year ago, was about 14.7. And so hotel motel tax collections continue to go well, and we are trending to finish right where we finished a year ago in that fund. And then page 15, wheel tax through March, we had collected a little over 11.7 million. Compared to a year ago, it was about 11.5. So right at about 190,000 ahead of where we were a year ago. And so wheel tax continues to come in well. And then court revenue on page 16 is all three are positive. Chancery and probate courts are about 131,000 ahead of where they were a year ago. Some of that is related to, I think they had a change in fee structure with the state for the current year. Criminal and sessions courts up about 217,000, and circuit, civil sessions, and juvenile are up about 226,000. So all of that through March continue to trend well and in the right direction. And so I'll answer any questions you may have on the monthly financial update before we talk a little bit about just budget overview.
Any questions from the commissioners about the? Seeing none, if you want to continue on to the budget.
I think you all have the budget book in front of you. I'll go over, I know that you all had your individual meetings with the mayor, and so you all have some general information. I will talk a little bit more into those and let you ask any questions that you may have. I think maybe the best place to start would be on page 11. So page 11 is just the budget summary, just FY '27 compared to the current year of '26. The biggest things on this page are, we'll start with the tax rate column, which is on the far right. So you will see that structure was tweaked a little bit for '27. We added a penny to the general fund. We took that away from general purpose school fund. The debt service amount per penny is still the same. This budget, this proposed budget has a per penny value of $2,010,000 per penny, compared to the budget in '26, we had estimated at about $1,960,000. And so, once again, this year, what we did is we looked at natural growth and then kind of split that with schools. And by doing that, that's why there was a penny moved from general purpose school fund to the general fund. And so the general fund's up about 10.3 million. So 2 million of that is related to the transfer of the penny. We got about 4 million more related to a payment in lieu of taxes from KUB, and then the other part of that, a lot of it is just natural growth as it relates to property taxes, and about a $750,000 increase in business tax. And so that's what leads to that $10.3 million figure. Governmental law library basically is the same. We continue to function that the same way. Public libraries, the public library funds up about $397,000. That is related to raises and a few operational increases. Solid waste, of course, as we have discussed, is up about 1.2 million over current year. Solid waste, the hauling part of our solid waste contract, when that was put out for bid, doubled. And so Mr. Jim Snowden is working with our consultant to bring some options but before us that we can look at, and some different models. And so that will be coming in the next few months. And so we were able to balance the solid waste fund. There's always been a $775,000 transfer from Engineering and Public Works. What we added this year was a $600,000 transfer from the general fund, and then we increased the use of fund balance on solid waste up to about $600,000. And so I think what the consultant will bring to us is different models in how to address our waste stream, and we will work with you all and decide what is the best path forward with solid waste. Well, that is one of the funds that sticks out. Air quality stayed the same at $160,000. That's just the piece that we put in there that's not related to grants. Hotel motel tax fund, we increased that by $500,000 from 12 to 12.5. We always look at motel from a budgetary standpoint more conservatively. We typically get in more than the 12.5, but then what we do at the end of the year is just true up, in that Knox County Code sets out how we have to spend money in the hotel motel tax fund, and so we just true that up at the end of the year if it exceeds that amount. Engineering and Public Works up about $1.2 million. Some of that is salaries and benefits. Engineering and Public Works requested, and let me get over there. They got a total of 5 new positions, Jim may be best to describe what those do, but ultimately he had some requests, and those are in there. I know that 2 are related to building. Here he comes. Your 5 positions. Yep. Yeah.
Jim Snowden, 205 West Baxter Avenue, Engineering Public Works. Yeah, Chris, thank you. I'll elaborate. We do have 2 of those 5 positions will be offset by additional revenue. We do anticipate, we're working on a fee audit now that is being mandated and required by state law for us to justify the expenditure of all our fees, development related. So we do anticipate essentially those positions would supplement the land development regulation process. One of the others is an environmental inspector. TDEC is Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation has been on us now for some time about doing some things a little differently, so we do need to have another staff member there. And then the other 2 are just public works members, mowers and flaggers and things like that you'll see out on your community every day. Hopefully just to be able to get our roads into better shape as far as maintenance. So those are the two primary, or the positions, and then obviously a lot of our other things are just the cost of materials. Asphalt right now is about 15% up. It was this time last year, and we anticipate to go higher. So just trying to keep those things in line with the current cost.
Thank you,
Mr.
Jim.
Snowden, while you're here, I sent a question, just so the other commissioners could hear. I sent a question about how many miles have we paved this year, and what do we anticipate to pave next year?
Yes, sir. I think we're going to pave, I think, right at 45 miles this year, and that does include several state aid roads. I know we paved a couple in District 6, Yarnell, Campbell Station, and Ball Road, as well as Hill Road in District 7. So a good component of those 45 miles we're using state aid funds. And candidly, I would imagine the mileage next year will be a little less because the city opened their asphalt a couple weeks ago, and it was quite a bit higher than what they anticipated. Obviously, you see fuel prices and diesel prices, so I would think we'd like to try to get somewhere in that, around 40 miles. So there should be, some of the state aid funding is, we used last year is not going to be there, so I think that number will go down a little bit.
And how many should we pay for basic maintenance every year?
To keep our network to where it's not, I guess, degrading, or, the OCI score, the overall condition score, realistically, we should be paving about 75 to 80 miles, so almost double where we're at.
Commissioner Thompson?
Oh, sorry. Dr. Snowden, one follow-up question to Commissioner Jay's. Obviously, the cost of materials and fuel, I was astounded how much it cost me to fill my truck up the other day at $4.22 a gallon. I think that was the club card price at Weigel's. But how are you on staff? Do you still have openings? Are you fully staffed? Because obviously, if we're going to pave more roads, it takes more people to do it. And I know you frequently get calls from me, because I get calls from folks saying, "Hey, I've got a pothole to fix. Hey, can you do this? So this is a hazard." And so you're running around putting out fires as well as just paving roads. So.
For sure. We're actually doing quite a bit better now. We don't have near the vacancies we once did. I think the job market's a little bit better for us now than it has been the last probably 8 to 12 months. And certainly with these positions, if approved, would be greatly appreciated. And I think kind of feel, what we'd like to do is keep we have 7 district crews that do the general maintenance, then we have 3 construction crews. Those district crews really can't break up right now because we don't have enough they essentially have to work together instead of splitting up and kind of almost having, one crew in one side of halls and one crew in the other side of halls. So with these positions, we're getting closer to that, to where we can split those crews up and kind of, really get more things done throughout the day than we traditionally have. So we're heading in the right direction.
Okay. Any idea, just ballpark, when you're saying that you're going to pave 40 some odd roads this past year, do you know what it costs to just pave those roads?
I'd have to get that for you. It's it would. I wouldn't want to hazard a guess on that.
Okay.
Because
I was just thinking, because if you're saying that the maintenance, we need to double the number of roads that we're paving, any idea what that dollar figure would be in order to get there?
For sure, and I can get you that. I would think, just ballparking in my head, I would think it'd be somewhere around $14 to $15 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hill?
Thank you. Mr. Snowden, thank you. Let me start out for thank you what you've done in District 6. We've really needed some catch-up, and we're not there yet, but you made some huge strides, and I greatly appreciate that. Talk to me when you say, like those roads, when you say state aid. What does that mean?
The state of Tennessee gives each county a percentage, or it's a formula that they break down based on population and size, and they give us traditionally around $600,000 annually. The good thing about that money is it's 98.2, so essentially the county only has to match 2%. So it's really free money, or very, very close to free money. A lot of the roads that you saw this year, we did have an infusion of money as part of the Transportation Modernization Act that was approved, I guess, maybe 2 fiscal years ago at the state level. So our normal allocation of like $600,000 was actually like $7 million. So that's why we have been able to, and what we've done is we've tried to hit a lot of those larger roads that are those, like Hill Road was like $2 million. We paved $2 million. That's pretty much eats up a tremendous amount of our local resurfacing that we do. So we tried to use that $7 million that the state give us to hit some of those bigger roads. like Hill, like Yarnell, like Ball. So it's really been a big help for us to get, some of those roads that would otherwise get pushed down the road a little bit, like Kodak Road this year, we're probably going to try to use for state aid. So we try to use those arterials and collectors to pave state aid roads with.
So I hear you saying that you were able to do what you've done this past year because of that one-time money,
That's
extra
correct.
money that came in. So next year, probably that's not going to happen again.
That unless the state chooses to do something similar to that, no, ma'am. It'll be more of a, it probably will be one road versus the 4 or 5 that you saw this year.
Okay. And so tell me the most recent number now on paving a mile.
There's really 2 numbers I like to use. I'll give you kind of one that kind of is an average. To pave like an 18-foot wide road, which a lot of our roads, that's probably the traditional roadway width. We don't have to mill like in a subdivision where you have a curb section. That's probably around $135,000. If you have to do a subdivision street with the big cul-de-sac and it's 26 foot wide and you got to go in there and mill to get that elevation the same for drainage purposes, that number's probably closer to 200. So that $150,000 to $160,000 is a good average per mile paved to the county.
And that's for 18 foot. Is that what you said, 18 foot wide?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking at some numbers that you sent me a while back that were like 125.
Yes, ma'am.
So that has, in the last 4 years, almost doubled?
It's went up. I was looking before I stepped up here. The TDOT publishes that we also adhere to an asphalt cement index that fluctuates. TDOT checks it every month, and we kind of index our contracts off of that. It was $600 a ton in last May. Now it's like $725 a ton. So it's, those costs have went up pretty significantly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Caldwell, I guess we're back to the budget.
Thank you. So going on page 11, we often get asked a little bit about Central Cafeteria Fund and why that's in there. We legally have to adopt that fund, and so that's why it always shows in the budget. And so it's really just federal money for the lunch program, and that's why that is in there. General Purpose School Fund is about $17.2 million more than what it was last year. A lot of that deals with raises, getting teacher compensation to a starting pay of $50,000. There's some fixed cost increases in there. They also did some cuts as well in order to get it all to balance, but that's what makes that up. Debt service fund is flat at $86 million. I'm going to talk about debt a little bit later, just to explain where that is and where it's going and why it is where it is. And so a lot of times we get asked things and we look at things differently because we look at it more from an organizational level than we do anything else. And so, like if you go to page 15, I'm getting a little bit in the weeds now, so just bear with me and then stop if you have questions, of course. But if you see on page 15, you'll have at the top, it talks about general fund continued, but it has department number, actual 2025 all the way through proposed to 2027. So the department name as it goes down means more to you than what we focus on is more of the department number. So if you go down on page 15 to 101-4801, it says Parks, 101-4801, and you go down about 10 more and you'll see Adult Sports, 101-4857. That's the first and last the department related to Parks and Rec. And so doing that, the proposed budget for all of parks this year is $7,168,661, compared to an adopted number in 2026 of $6,988,536. Going on down the page a little bit, you'll get down to support services, which is 101,5400. This is going to go on to the next page, but that 101,5400 starts the health department, and it goes all the way over to page 16 and goes down to 101,5467, which is grant match. And so that is all the departments that are in the general fund related to the health department. Their proposed budget in '27 is $22,531,205. The adopted number in '26 was $21,619,203. If you go down on page 16, and you'll see 101-7910, which is information technology. You will go down to 7920, and there's records management, and then 7930 is county IT software and hardware. All three of those combined are related to IT. You will notice that records management has an asterisk by it and is 0 in '27. We're working with IT. We're changing records from a department over to an internal service fund because they service all departments. And so we have changed that model to where it's a fee-based model now, in that they're billing the departments for their service. And so that is a change this year, but it is in an internal service fund. And this will be the first year of that. And like we have done on other internal service funds, a lot of times the first year or two, trying to figure everything out takes some time, but it'll get to where it makes a lot more sense. Then going over to page 17, if you see 101-8900 court officers, that is at the beginning of the sheriff's office. It goes down to 101-8969, which is jail commissary, but it also picks up 101-8995, which is juvenile court officers. But with that being said, the amount proposed for the sheriff's office is $432,020, 117,432,020, and the adopted number in '26 was 114,607,005. If you go, I'm going to skip a little bit. If you go to page 25, if you're a visual person more than a numbers person, there's three good charts here that shows the general fund without the sheriff's office. It shows just the sheriff's office, and it shows general purpose schools. That will show you budget growth beginning in budget FY '21 and going through proposed of '27. Also, then going back to page 24, it's a really good analysis of the general fund. The top part shows how the expenditures get from an adopted budget of '26 to the proposed budget of '27. That will, and it gives we try to break out as best as possible the majority of what those costs are. Know that on the ambulance contract, $500,000, that is related to dispatch and 911. I think everything else is pretty self-explanatory. And going back to page 23, in the middle of the page is the revenue for general purpose school fund. We often talk about maintenance of effort and how maintenance of effort works. Just generally speaking, maintenance of effort for the schools starts at county property taxes and goes down to other local revenue. And so that number for FY '27 is $371,118,206. Compared to last year, that number was $292,706. The state looks at maintenance of effort related to education based off budget, not based off actual. We can talk about why that is, but that's just, they look at it based off budget versus actual. And it's local recurring revenue. I always say it's property taxes, sales taxes, permits, fees, and fines. It's any revenue that is recurring. If there's use of fund balance, it does not count that. If there's a transfer, it does not count that. It only counts local recurring revenue when we talk about maintenance of effort.
Commissioner Thompson?
I just, thanks, I forgot my light was on. I turned it on a couple minutes ago. So I just wanted to point out, so when we're looking at the school's general fund of $717 million, our portion of that is only 300 and something million, where the state and federal is kicking in the rest of it, correct?
Yeah, so if the transfer number of 710,000, you could add it to us. And so you could say then that number is closer to 372. State number is 345, and then that federal number is 600,000. That does not include grants, though, so keep that in mind. So this is just the operating budget. We don't bring a budget for whether it's general grants in the government or for the schools. Those are brought one at a time. And so we put out a single audit report every year that will show grant expenses and what those are related to.
Sure. I just wanted to, I guess, get that clarification, because from the public's perspective, they say, oh, we have a $700 million school budget, but the county, so $1.2 billion is what we have in the total budget, but for the school portion, the state and federal kicking in roughly half of that.
Correct. And I think if you probably, I don't want to speak for Ron, but if you count state and federal grants, it's probably, it's more than half.
Sure.
If you kick those in.
Grants are always extra above and beyond.
Budget them separately.
And
for sure.
most of them are pass-through funds where we don't have a local match for it, and so.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Caldwell, I'm still not 100% clear on the whole maintenance of effort. So I know that we continue to talk about declining student enrollment. You know, what happens if enrollment continues to decline? Does the maintenance of effort go down, or does it always stay at that level?
So I'm going to get Ron in on this too, but here's what I would tell you. I think the state looks at that completely separate. I think they look at maintenance of effort as one piece and population as a second piece. So while I think it makes sense to look at them jointly, if the state's not going to change the rules by what they govern by, then they are separate. And so the state has always said maintenance of effort, it's a supplanting law is what it is. It means they don't want you getting more state funding and then lowering your local funding. They want you at least to stay flat, right? So maybe the General Assembly eventually takes up the conversation about trying to tie those two together, but I think they have always viewed them kind of separate. Ron, is that fair? And so, and keep in mind, there's maintenance of effort. There's maintenance of effort with schools. There's maintenance of effort with positions in the sheriff's office. There's maintenance of effort with the election commission. There's maintenance of effort with engineering and public works. There's just things like that are, have been passed, and I guess you typically would say is state law, right? And so, to this point, the state has not talked about declining population and relating that to maintenance of effort. I think it's a great conversation to have, but I don't think they've had it at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And there are certain things that can impact what we do. I mean, let me give you an example. It's not school related, but there was a piece of legislation in the General Assembly this year that came up, like often does, just kind of out of the blue, right? And it was hoping to give the sheriff, I think it was giving the sheriff veto authority over the budget related to charter counties. Nothing against Sheriff Spangler, but it has something to do with Memphis and Shelby County. And so we called and said, hold on, we're a different charter, and there's already maintenance of effort on positions, and they tweaked it and changed it, and I think the bill may have just got tabled, I'm not sure. But often things like that can happen that you don't see coming that could have an impact on you. But maintenance of effort to this point has not been tied back to population.
Are there additional questions? Mr. Fox?
Thank you, Chairman Jay. Okay, Mr. Caldwell, in the past, we've not seen any kind of tying to student population, but is it within the state statute to allow a tying of, because that's what I haven't fully investigated. I mean, just in all candor, I'm trying to, and my initial investigation is that if there's declining enrollment, there is an option to move to a per-student funding formula if enrollment has declined. Have you heard that? I know in the past they may not have done that, but that's kind of what I'm finding upon. I've read the statute a little bit, and I'm still learning it. So,
I'm far from an attorney, and so I'm looking at Dupler up there to see if he's heard of that, or if the system has ever even have talked about that.
If you would, please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Chair Jay. Gary Dupler with Knox County Law Director's Office here in substitute of Mike Moyers today just for this meeting. But as far as Commissioner Fox's question, I mean, TISA is what the state has handed down at this point. I'm not aware of an option. I am aware, though, I mean, because of the general discussion, that in 2023, the legislature passed the Teacher Pay Protection Act, and that is what you're seeing a big part of the school budget, because it went from 35,000 base in 2019 to now it's got to be 50,000, across the board starting in the fall. So that's the lion's share of the budget. Roughly 80% or more of the school budget is salaries. So I mean that's what you're seeing. But to your point, Commissioner Fox, could the state go to another model? They could. I mean, they used to use the BEP for school funding, and now it's this TISA formula. So
well, I was talking about state funding. I was talking about local option maintenance, or the local maintenance of effort requirement. And I thought there was an alternative funding formula if you have declining enrollment.
I'd have to look at that.
That's kind of where I am.
further.
I have to
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
it. I heard it in the ether, so to speak, and I'm trying to pinpoint that. It could be completely made up, but that's kind of what I'm, all right. Thank you.
Do you have any other budget questions for Mr. Caldwell? Ms. Russell?
Thank you, Chair Jay. Just because I'm trying to get a full understanding of the maintenance of effort, just looking at these numbers, the difference in what the state is providing is approximately 4 million, I'm rounding. And we're going up approximately 17 million in the budget. So is it fair to say that the $13 million difference is coming from local money, and that is, in essence, not required because we're meeting what we gave last year, but we are choosing to give them 13 million more this year? Is that, or that's what we're being asked to do? Is that a fair question, a fair analysis?
Yes, but let me put some caveats on that, just so everybody's clear. There are two things that we've got to do, right? So one is get starting teacher pay up to 50K, which has to be done. So there is a price tag for that. The other thing that we kind of look at, I guess, to say, is the schools are entitled to 72.2% of sales tax from the city and the county by referendum. That they would say you have to give us, and so that is true. And so we typically budget them their growth in sales tax. Now, the way maintenance of effort works, we could take every bit of what we give them in sales tax away in property tax. So you could keep them flat. You could. But then the state would say, well, if you're not getting starting teacher paid at $50,000, then we could hold some of your revenue, right? So I think what we have done the last 2 years was we sat down with schools and we said natural growth. We calculate natural growth as X, then let's split it. And so we split natural growth with them in 26. What we're doing in 27 is splitting the growth again, putting it towards the general fund. They're putting their portion toward compensation. And so to answer your question, yes, maintenance of effort is increasing by 13 million or whatever the exact number is. I think legally we have to do that portion of sales tax. Could we pull it away in property tax? We could, but then we're also going to cut off our nose because we got to get teacher paid at the 50K, and the state could hold our revenue until we do that.
Any other questions for
Yes, I
Mr.
have a
Caldwell?
question.
Ms. Lee?
Thank you, Commissioner Jay. When you say hold revenue, what exactly does that mean?
So the state does a couple things, right? So the state says if you don't pay in 100% of your, if you don't make 100% contribution to your retirement plans, then we'll hold your sales tax and put that towards your contribution. Thus, you don't get that money. So meaning what they reserve the right to do is to, instead of sending you your sales tax, they hold it until you remedy what's wrong, right? They do that as it relates to pension payments, and I'm gonna look at Ron again. I think that's what they also said about teacher pay at 50K. Yeah.
So what would be the figure just to meet that 50,000 salary requirement without any extra, and we'd still be in compliance?
To hit 50,000 on teacher pay, And then plus the step, right, on top of that. And plus the what? The step, there's like automatic. So to get to 50K, he's saying is 7 to 8 million. Then they get a step raise every year, teacher does, and teachers get a step raise, and so that would take that number to 13. So they get a step raise, which is about 5, and then to get to 50K is another 7 to 8, so 12 to 13.
So we could be looking at, instead of 17 million, 13 million.
I mean, you could, I would tell you, and we can get this for you, there's other fixed cost increases like similar to like we have in the general fund that they have as well. So just keep that in mind. I would say, yes, you're well within your right to take that back down to that or make that as a proposal. But I think from our standpoint and what was proposed by the mayor is a budget that includes fixed cost increases.
But the extra money that if we didn't give it, we could give that to roads. Is that correct?
You could, but what I'm saying is there's fixed cost increases within the schools that they would have to find a way to fund. That's the salaries aren't just the only fixed cost increases. Like we have fixed cost increases in the general fund, food at the jail, pharmaceuticals at the jail. So we have fixed cost increases that we fund, and they have the same thing that they brought forth, and that's what was in their budget, on top of those salary increases.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Lee, just to add one more, just to answer one of your questions, in fiscal year '25, so it'll probably be a little bit different this year, we sent the state $1.4 billion. That would be sales tax, local option sale tax, business tax, and mixed drink tax. We received back about $786 million. So that's if they're going to hold, that's where they're going to hold it back from. So they already keep half our money, and they could, if they mandated certain things, they can keep more. So we are a significant donor county to the state of Tennessee. We fund every other county and the state budget to the tune of $650 million a year of revenue generated right here in our own backyard. So is that accurate?
That is correct.
Thank you. Ms. Russell?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Thank you, Chair Jay. I might have just missed a second. The one-step raise that raises the new ask to 13 million, is that a state-mandated one-step raise, or is that just a county priority, or Knox County school system priority?
I think it's a school system priority. It's not a state priority.
Okay.
It's just a way, I think it's getting those step raises for teachers is a way that helps with retention and recruitment.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Caldwell related to the budget? Mr. Caldwell, will you give us the chair sets these meetings and we'll get an official notice, but can you help explain to everybody the budget process going forward as best you know it right now?
Thank you so much. Yes. We have worked with Chair Oster. She has scheduled a second public hearing on the budget for June the 15th, following the optional county commission meeting. So probably around 3:30 or 4, we'll have the second public hearing on the budget, followed by a vote on the budget. We will have a first public hearing. She's not set the exact date yet, but it's going to be between June 1st and June 12th. So once we get that date, I'm sure she will share it, but we will share it as well. We also, by law, have to put a budget in the newspaper, and so we will do that. And we have a certain time frame to have it in there. So whether you want to look at it in there, you can. It's more of a summarized version, but we'll put that in there in the next couple of weeks. We are, as you all know, we are always available for one-on-one meetings. So if you want to sit down with us and we'll go over as much detail as you want, we are happy to do so. We'll discuss more of this at the 2 public hearings, of course. If you want to hear from departments, we can do that as well. Basically, we got a month and 4 days from today, and so we got some time. Let me say to you all, so for those of you who wasn't here for reappraisal the last time, those letters went out Wednesday or Thursday, and so we did some workshop with the assessor and the media to try to let the public know how reappraisal works and let them know that the average increase was about 60%, and that doesn't mean that their taxes are going up 60%. So if you get calls on that, 60% is really the number. If their value of their home has went up 60%, there will not be a change in taxes. And so know that those letters are probably trickling out now by the Postal Service. There will be an appraisal, there will be a Board of Equalization in July where people can protest that. And then the assessor will set a certified tax rate, which will go to the comptroller for approval. And then in your August meeting, we will set a new certified tax rate. At that point, if the certified tax rate that is presented is adopted, then from our standpoint, there's not a budgetary change. It's just a change in what the penny is worth. And so, but just know that those letters are out. So if any of you all have had calls, that's why. But the big number as you talk to your constituents would be 60%. If it's at 60%, there's probably no change. If it's above 60%, then they could see an increase. If it's below 60, they could see a decrease. But in the aggregate for us, so I think it's something else that I always stress. I think it's easy if you're the general public, you think that the county makes money off reappraisal. We don't make money. We are revenue neutral on reappraisal, and we actually don't even get to capture inflation. So oftentimes as a county, we fall behind. And so what they pull out, is, if you want to know, they pull out by the state form, you pull out new construction over that reappraisal period. So that gets pulled out, and then anything that's new from a personal property standpoint. So you do capture that, but it's only because it's new. The next cycle, it just rolls into the total, and then you don't capture that again. And so, but know that that's out there right now. And if there are certain things that you want us to cover at the meetings that are coming up in June, the public hearings, we're happy to do so. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, whether it's the operating budget, the capital improvement plan, how debt ties into that. Happy to do any of that. You ought to just let us know. And if you would like to meet one-on-one, just call me or email me.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell, and thank you, Ms. Bodie, and everyone in the Finance Department for all your hard work. Mr. Dubler?
Thank you, Chair Jay. I just wanted to more fully respond to Commissioner Fox's question from earlier. Commissioner Fox, there is an option under state law for per pupil funding and as an exception to maintenance of effort, TCA Section 49.314, and CTAS talks about that as well. Now, I don't begin to imagine on how to calculate that, but that's something for these fine professionals out here. But I mean, there is an option in answer to your question.
Thank you, Mr. Dupler. Is there any new business to come before today's meeting? Our next Finance Committee meeting will be August 24th at 1:00 p.m. Is there something that you would like to be added to that agenda item, that agenda? Please send that to me sometime in July, and we will prep it for you. And just a personal note of privilege, I want to thank Mr. Huckabee for attending today's meeting. It's nice to see candidates who are at the Finance Committee meeting, learning and understanding our budget. I wish more would. Thank you for attending today. Is there any other business? Entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? All those in favor, please say aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.